thanks everybody for coming today. Yes, it's usually, I always have the August or September speaking slot because now that the summer day holidays are over and the year end is only, 4 months away, we've already heard the C word, thanks to Sandra. So it's really, really close. Don't worry, I've already started working on the marketing for my clients as well. So you're not alone. But yeah, the year end is only 4 months away. So this is the time where marketing is becoming a priority for a lot of us because either we just, we're coming up to the busiest time of the month of the year, or we are just, have such a long to-do list and things we still need to do before the end of the year or have planned. So that's why I thought I'd walk you through a slightly different approach to marketing, just to make sure that you're indeed not missing a trick or two. So I hope this is helpful. We have plenty of time. I keep it fairly short. I don't do a presentation just because I think it makes more sense to actually follow and have a conversation and back and forth a little bit than looking at slides. But yeah, so marketing is obviously, if you think about it, if anybody asks you what do you think marketing is or how would you define it, it's probably something along the lines of promoting your products and services. You talk about the benefits, you talk about the features, and maybe you're advertising specials or offers or discounts if it's a particularly quiet season, or if you're coming up to something like Christmas, for example. So this way, obviously, you're visible to people who are looking for what you offer. So you tell them why they should buy from you and not from your competitors, and you're just visible at the time when they're looking for what you offer. Let's go for an example. I always like to just use my client examples because it's easier and I'm just in the middle of it anyway. So one of my clients, for example, does loft boarding. I had to look that up. I had no idea what that was in the beginning. So obviously somebody boards your loft and floors your loft so you have more storage space, which sounds really good. As a German, I'm surprised because every loft and we even have cellars and basements and everything for storage. And here that's not useful and not often the case. And so it's quite useful for homeowners, for example. So they either had to start to work from home recently, or they're starting a family, and we know what that does to your home and your tidy up routine. And so at some point for this marketing approach, for example, they're running out of space. And that's where obviously the loft boarding company would come in. The people are looking to floor their loft to create extra storage space. And then the marketing would target exactly those, the homeowners running out of space, and then the different triggers and reasons why they do that. So it's a simple formula. You know your target audience, you find those triggers that make them need you and look for you, and then you are being visible. You try to be visible where they are and try to show them how you're solving those problems, and you use your USP to make the sale. So it's pretty straightforward, and how most marketing works. It's that what we call common sense, and it's not wrong to do it that way. What I want to talk to you about today is that really all there is, or could we go further? Because if you think about it, this is aimed at people who are specifically looking for your products and services. So this is aimed at people who have a new website and they need copy for it. Or it is for people who, as Shirley said, they're just running out of time, they need help, or they need somebody to do a translation or whatever else. So they're having the problem you solve and you help solve, and they already know what they want. But that's not the whole customer journey, is it? Like, we don't just wake up in the morning and think, I need loft flooring, or I need a VA, or I need a translator or copywriter. If we go back to my loft boarding example, maybe that makes it a little bit clearer. So the homeowners we want to target, they started by searching and buying a house. Then they move in. And then the trigger comes in, what we said earlier, they're starting a family, they're working from home, they start running out of space. And that's where I think we're missing a step, because we said earlier, they decide for loft flooring, they search for loft flooring companies, and then they ask for a quote, and then they make a decision. But in between, is that really what they do? Because if I'm running out of space, I look into all of my options. I might start decluttering. I might maybe look into bespoke shelving, get a few, shelves into my cupboard or under the stairs, storage and anything like that. Or you look into an extension to the house, to your garage or something like that. You might look into converting the garage or your loft, or add a garden office. How many people got a garden office over the last 2.5 years? You might also just move into a bigger house if you're running out of space, if you can. That's obviously another nice option. Or more often than not, they're not doing anything. They just keep running out of space. They're too busy. They don't have the money. It's not the right time or anything like that. And yes, loft flooring is one option. And, obviously also an easy and cheap one. But they have all of the options before they actually think of, wow, let's do the loft flooring. That sounds really good. So, and I think that's probably the same for all of you. So not everybody just jumps into I need this, I need that, I need to buy this, or I need help with this. So there is basically something we're missing out on if we only target people who already know what they want, and that they already know that they want your product and service. So you're kind of missing out on the whole bit between. So if we only target people who already know what they want, you're not target the earlier stages of the customer journey. So before the decision making, or even the trigger, because that, as I show you in a few minutes, is also quite helpful. Then another thing I noticed with this approach is that you're often only thinking about your direct competitors. So the other tea companies, the other copywriters, the other financial advisors. But that's not your only competition, is it? Because the alternatives to your product and services are, not even on a lot of people's, horizon and marketing strategy, to be honest. So if we see it that way, the loftboarding company doesn't just have the other loftboarding companies as competition. They also have conversions, extensions, moving house, decluttering, carpenters who do bespoke shelving and all that things, a garage conversion or a garden room or nothing, as I said. Very, very often people just opt to do nothing because it's far too difficult, expensive, or they just don't have the time. So that is something we're missing out of if we're, only targeting people who already know what they want. It's basically what I want to say is stop cutting out potential clients and customers who are at earlier stages of their customer journey. Because if we're going back to the loftboarding guys, if anybody decides decluttering or to just move house, then they're not going to get back to the loftboarding ever, maybe, or the next time they might run out of space, they're looking into those options again. But you're losing them before they even could be becoming your customer. So what I think of doing, or what I'm suggesting of doing, is joining them earlier in their journey. So basically be part of their decision-making process. And you can do that by raising awareness before they even look at the alternatives and before they even have a problem. Because especially if you are doing content, if you're on social media, if you have a blog, if you're sharing news and bits and pieces in a newsletter, for example, whatever you do, there will be your website or anything where you can share, content in a way and advise and help people. Going back to my loftboarding example, for example, what we've done for him is that, and for that business, is that we provided helpful content for first-time buyers, for people who move house. We shared clever storage solutions for a growing family, or how to, do your home office, and how to actually can make that versatile, and how do you do the storage for it and everything, so it doesn't completely ruin your living room. Things like that. And we also did a little bit of the pros and cons of all the options. So we compared loft flooring versus a loft conversion or a garage conversion. We looked at its extensions and what are the pros and cons of that. Then obviously same as for what's better, a garden office or a shed. We're talking about moving to a bigger house. We're basically giving them all these options, and we're giving them the decision-making helpers. We could be helping them find their way in between all these options. So it's a little bit of explaining the market, maybe to a degree. And that means that when people are in their earlier stages of their customer journey and are starting to research, like, damn, I'm running out of space, what do I do? Then you can come up and pop up, and you might give them ideas of really good ways to do under-stair storage or to declutter or anything like that. But they've already seen your brand, so you're already exposed to people who have the problem that you solve before they even thought or heard about loftboarding, because, as I said, for me, that was new. Another example I wanted you to think about is, let's go for an accountant, so a more service-based business. In this case, you could, for example, share helpful content for business starters. So maybe about bookkeeping and accounting, explaining them how they can get started or what it all means. Point towards maybe third-party content even, where they can get help and really good tax tips or productivity tips on how to run your business well and everything like that. You can also explain accounting software and what it does and what it doesn't do. So people know what the options are. What's the difference between a bookkeeper and an accountant, for example? If you're looking, should I outsource my bookkeeping and accounting, or should I hire somebody? Things like that you can talk about and give them the pros and cons and the ins and out. Also the same for, should I become a limited company? What does the VAT registration mean? So all of these things that are likely to trigger for accountant to be needed, because once you're a limited company, you have to report to Companies House and all of these things. So you think about your triggers, you think about things that get people to that stage where they need you and how you can help them out earlier and basically get them to follow you earlier. And so by the point that they're then thinking about, oh, well, I need some help with my finances, they're not even, they know if a software might do it for them, or they know if they need, to outsource or to hire somebody, and they have you as the person to talk to and to speak to when they make the decision to go for an accountant and outsource it. So just think about, don't just focus people who already feel like, oh, I need a cup of tea and I want to have nice loose leaf tea, ideally from somebody local and that I can meet in person, does tea tastings. Just think about what do people want? What do they get? How can you help them get to that point to know what they want? So in short, think about providing help and advice before they need you and raise awareness of the options they have. Help them make a decision. So just to slightly summarize it, so you have to think broader when targeting your marketing. You don't just target those who already know they want what you're selling. Instead, get in front of potential customers before they need you or before they even know about you. And which obviously gets you a foot in the door before your direct competitors as well as the alternatives. Then, as I said, create content that answers their questions and help them help themselves, or help them, make decision during those earlier stages, and be their confidant, their expert to go to, something they know, they learn and trust your expertise. And that includes, as I said, considering the direct competitors that have the same products and services as you do, as well as the alternatives, so that are solving the same problem in a different way, including doing nothing. That is really something to think about, because people are always going for the easy option. We know that. And the next step after that, just, if you want to do even more and go one step further, think about widening your field even more and talk about your values. So if you do the value-based marketing in a way, if you think of your target group not just as people who need what you are offering, but also who are signing up to the same things as you believe in. So if you, for example, a sustainable business, if you're green, you're all about eco-credentials, about recycling and reducing waste and all of that, then you could share tips for recycling to help them reduce waste. It doesn't need to be just about your product and about the work you're providing. It could be about, helping them with those shared interests, with those shared values. You can explain the pros and cons the same way as we said earlier. And the difference between the different materials and alternatives and everything like that. So that is an even extra step where you can go and widen your field a little bit, just to see, you can get people in who are just looking for the ecological version of it, or the local version, or something like that. So I want to turn this around on you now. So I would like to hear from you. If you think about it, what happens to your ideal clients before they look for your products and services? What other options might they have looked at before, for example? Then how could you use that? How could you join them earlier in their journey? And I'm all yours. So I'd be happy to answer your questions, or we can brainstorm a few examples if you like.
Someone describes the thought process of their ideal client.
What are the little bumps in the road before they think, damn, I need an advisor, I need bigger things, I need to actually think about my pension? Because usually that kind of behavior, that kind of thinking, that has warning signs coming up. And as you said, it's the whole kind of, if you have the choice between a holiday or I don't know, repairing the leaky roof or something like that. So it's a little bit that conversation. It's the bits and tiny little bit that creep up on you that you only see the tiny problem and not the big picture. And that is absolutely right. That is exactly those tiny little hiccups beforehand that you can target, because they will be looking for, how do I get money, or how can I save better, or whatever else, rather than the bigger picture. How do I learn how to manage? How should I manage? And as you said, once you're overwhelmed, you're stepping away from it entirely. So it's the tiny little tricks. It's the, fix that leaking faucet. And then it's a small start, a quick thing and a quick fix, and you feel a lot more confident about it. And confidence is what you want to bring, confidence and comfort in a way. And if you do that in small ways, I think, definitely look at the pains and aches they have before they know what the pains and aches are called and what the solution is.
How can I let people know that they might be accidentally attracting the wrong kind of business?
It is a little bit of doing the splits mentally. It isn't easy to think further than, because obviously a lot of your triggers, and one of the triggers is something you've already been using for your marketing, which is like, are you getting the wrong kind of clients? Did you know that that's due to your copy? Very likely, that's the starting point. Yeah. It is the trigger you want to talk about. In this case, it's creating the awareness that that's the problem. Like they're just seeing, like, why do I get these people? This is bad. Like, I don't want them. They might not be aware that that's maybe not, the fault of their copy, but that you can solve it by adapting your copy and by updating it. So think about it that way. They're not aware that that's a link, that that's something you do, because they just feel like, why? I just don't get the right people. This is weird. And then what you can go further on is you can tell them, do you know what you can do in order to not, have those wrong people go away and be happy about it, and tell other people, the right people, about you, is by helping them, by just putting the content out there. And I've got that, for example, if I say what I do and what I don't do, and then you give them tips as to, so if you're the wrong client and you want this is where you can go and this is what you can do. So you don't just send them away, you help them. Apart from that, it's obviously you have quite obvious triggers, website and everything. But everybody starts a business. Every one of your clients has started a business at some point, or changed their business, or added a new product, or had to get to a point where they needed a new website, or they needed to rethink their marketing, or they need to update it. And that's where you get in. It's the whole kind of starting from scratch. How do you actually get started? And how do you reassess? And when should you be reassessing? And all of these little hiccup points.
Herbals aren't tea, and I avoid talking about them in my marketing. Is that wrong?
You're not wrong. You're just seeing it from your expert point of view. I'm pretty sure that everybody here in this room doesn't, excuse my friend, give a care about the difference between tea and herbals and everything, because it's a hot drink. It's tasty. You like it or you don't. It doesn't. So I'm absolutely, I understand. I'm a professional nitpicker as well. So it's the expert level where you then become, but no, it is not called this and not that. Mm-hmm. We're all good at that because we're all experts at what we do. But your target group doesn't really care. So you can talk about it like, did you know that that's actually not it? Like, that's not the same thing. Mm-hmm. But then, make it interesting for them. Give them the information that is actually of relevance to us. Like, for example, that also means that maybe, you have to treat them differently. Like, did you know your herbal tea actually should, what difference does this make? It's still just a hot drink. But no, maybe not. Maybe we need to figure out, like, oh yeah, no, did you know that, leaving your peppermint tea in for 10 hours, not a good idea because it gets bitter. Things like that. Or you can go, for example, we've had this earlier here, and I'm exactly the same position. I don't do caffeine, but I can drink green tea, no problem at all. I drink them by the liter. And by the pint, this is a pint-sized mug, and I have 2 of those. 34 actually, but 2 right now. I drink a lot of tea and I talk a lot, hence, that's related. But yeah, back to you. What I think is you can explain to them there's different ways of making tea. And if there's caffeine in there, there's a way to reduce that caffeine, but maybe not let it steep that long. Or using a lighter one, like green tea. Is it really, does it have caffeine? How much in comparison? Or if you're avoiding caffeine, for example, you're fine with a small cup of tea in the morning, just don't do it after 3. And now I'm channeling Jin Lally, but yeah, that's just, how No Dice works. She's all about the decaf, obviously. But it's these little things, because a lot of people like myself, before I talk to you, is no, I can't do caffeine, and so I think black teas and green teas are all out, and I have to stick to herbals and to rooibos. But I don't really have it, do I? That's your expertise and where you can help people.
The person's made a decision that they don't want your tea, but they might have thousands of friends who are desperate for your tea.
If I end up on your website because I was looking for a local loose leaf, high quality company, but you don't do herbals, please link me to local, loose leaf companies that do herbals. Because you're not giving anything away. You don't do herbals. Once you start doing herbals, you obviously immediately, remove that. But it is, you can still help them. It's like somebody getting in touch. You can't help them, but obviously you don't say like, yeah, bye, why do you steal my time? So why don't you do that as well? They're looking for something that you're representing, just with a slightly different product.
Can you recommend how to find out the pain points of firms and big corporations?
Two ways, and they're always the same. And one way is you can to a degree figure out yourself, because you know what goes wrong when the translation and the language is shit. If an HR company has real problems recruiting for a specific country or for English speaking, or if they're getting the wrong people coming back in for a job ad or something like that, then, clearly the language isn't right. If they're looking for a diverse, inclusive kind of team, and they're only getting, middle-aged white males applying, then obviously their language isn't right. And maybe if that's the same thing for your translations, maybe if you're trying to recruit in countries where they advertise, let's say, in English, and they're trying to get a German speaker, then no, if they have problems with that, then obviously you can come in and just say like, yeah, because probably let me have a look at your translation. That might actually just put people off or not attract the right people. The same thing. So if you think about somebody, I don't know if you do websites, for example, but let's just assume you are. If the problem, because that has to do with the language, with the translation not being quite targeted at the right people, is where you can lock into. So they might not be aware that, we actually the problems you solve with a good translations are the triggers that you're looking for, is the short version. So what happens to a company that doesn't follow your advice and doesn't use your translations. So the benefits of having the right language and having a website or a job ad or anything like that, or documents translated so they sound right and they're talking to the right people. So that's then that's the pain points right there for you if you turn it around, because they're not getting the right applicants, their website doesn't perform, their marketing isn't good. And the other way is talk to individuals who work in corporates. They're more likely to say, yeah, we have that bit of a problem. Like in our HR department, yeah, no, we're struggling with finding people in that area, or we're feeling like, maybe sometimes they have a personal feeling and their manager isn't listening to them. Things like that. If you talk to individuals working in a corporate environment, they're more likely to talk about these things than, if you send a big survey to managers or anything like that. But yeah, make contacts, to maybe ask people here or in other networking events for introductions, and then ask the questions. Where does it hurt? That's my standard question when I talk to clients and potential clients. Where does it hurt? And then you can see if what you do can solve these problems and how. They might not know that what you do is the solution to what they're looking for. We always know what we can help them with and what good we can do, basically. But we'd never use the negative to inform our marketing and to target our marketing. Not to forget about it's a cultural thing, but also lately we're looking for the language of, for example, job adverts to be more inclusive. So they should be there's words that put women off, for example, or there's words that target more able people than disabled people and all of that stuff. So it's a new layer to language. And if it's not in your native, even native speakers have trouble finding that. I've been optimizing adverts for a few of my clients lately and trying to find that gender neutral or, a little bit better, the language a little bit better. So you feel and sound inclusive and open. And if you do that while you're translating for a language that is your second or third or fourth language and thing, I think that is something that gets overlooked very, very quickly as well. It's not just the cultural innuendos and everything. And that's where you can bring in the insights and the awareness. You don't just do the translation, you give them the consultancy as to how they can improve it and pinpoint down where it's going wrong.
Would you recommend I share my personal story on my website?
Think about it that way. You are working with people one-to-one, if that's face-to-face or via video. But they have to trust you because they're in a vulnerable situation. They can't do something they want to do, but they have to ask somebody for help. And you're just making them feel a little bit more comfortable by saying, yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been there and I've found my way out, and I can help you find the way out as well. So it makes them relate more to you. So I wouldn't worry about it. I think that makes clear what your motivation is, why you do what you do, and it makes people relate to you and feel, well, there's a teacher who knows everything. No, I've been where you are. And I think that makes it really, really good. You can help them lower the threshold, and that goes for all the marketing. It might be, I can't learn a whole language, and wow, that's so long, and people keep telling me you have to, study years to actually speak a language. But do we really need to speak the language fluently to feel a bit more comfortable when we're going on holiday to France next? This doesn't have to be a big thing. We don't need to be perfect in order to, get an ice cream in Italy without being looked at funny. Take the fear away, but also make it it doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need to write your next novel in that language. It's just about feeling more comfortable at your next holiday. Or if part of your family, like your husband's family, is Italian and you don't understand a word, and next time you can just say one sentence and just tell them, I don't understand anything else, but that's what I can do. It's little steps. It's making it not one big jump, but making it a small step that really makes a difference.